Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is, I think, our fourth or fifth AMA that we've done, our Advice from a Call Center Geek happy hour. Super excited. Literally, James, you're kind of a legend in my eye, in my contact center, customer experience world. When I started going to shows, you were, you did a lot of, you're doing your, I don't want to say your act, because that's not giving it credit, right? But you were doing your thing as a keynote guy, and I've always kind of really respected what you do and the value that I think you give your community as well. So just love that we were able to do this, and great to have you here, and hopefully we can answer some questions and have some fun doing it.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for the kind words. They were far too kind, but thank you. And this is going to be good fun. Looking forward to this.
So before anybody kind of, as people are kind of filing in here, I want to hear what you're doing. What are you doing this year? What shows are you doing? What how has that been going? How has COVID kind of affected what your speaking has been doing as well?
COVID wasn't too kind to the in-person.
No, speaking. Especially probably international travel wasn't good. The whole thing.
Yeah. So, with COVID, I just managed to find new and interesting ways to do virtual keynotes. Because, of course, like for the people that don't know, my in-person keynote is musical. It's a musical keynote.
Yeah.
I had a music career in the past. Talk about customer experience, customer service through the lens of music. It's really good fun. It doesn't really translate very well through Zoom. So, I had to find new and interesting ways to get the messages across, and luckily I've managed to do that. So I've been doing lots of virtual stuff. I've got a new talk called Hyper Fandom, which is talking about extreme fans, because there's we all know about fandoms, but there are some fans that sit at the extreme end of fandom. I call them hyper fans. Now the reason I call them hyper fans is because super fans was taken and I wanted my own thing.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you even see it too. And again, I don't want this to sound weird, but there's still when we're posting content too, there's always those kind of individuals as well that seem really, really engaged with it. Now that's on the small end. That's not for a brand, right? But you even see it kind of in that micro versus that macro world.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think you don't have to be a musician or a film star or anything like that to create fans, people that follow. There's in the music world, there's this idea of 1,000 true fans, that if as a music artist you can get 1,000 true fans that will buy stuff off you worth $100 or pounds a year, you're good. And so there's plenty of music artists out there making really good livings that we've never heard of because they only care about their 1,000 true fans. So you don't have to be Metallica to have hyper fans. It does happen, right.
And James, I think too, what we're seeing, and again, I know you and I kind of, not that we have differing opinions, but we kind of talk and jest about NFTs and kind of that whole thing. But I think even outside of the NFT, but this Web3 space is really based on community building, and I think you're going to see brands really start to focus on that. There was loyalty programs and there were some things, but I think it's turning into almost its own strategy in itself, where you're really trying to build community around brands to do some kind of unique things.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really interesting concept. The thing is, it's going to be difficult for a lot of brands, especially ones that have been around forever, because they're trying to put forward this authentic message, but they're also trying to be cool at the same time.
Right.
So they're like, hey, join this 200-year-old bank.
right.
Skateboard, NFTs, what? And it's
it doesn't fit.
No, not really. So I think it depends on the type of customers, and of course, pretty much all customers are going to be getting. Well, they're not going to be getting younger. They're going to. Well, yeah, they are. They're going to be moving back in generations.
Yeah.
So, needs and mindsets and habits and lifestyles and values and behaviors and all that fun stuff is going to be shifting. But yeah, I think this idea of community building is really quite interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm going to try to do, I think, we've had with our podcast, with Advice from a Call Center Geek, there's been such a really cool, and again, it's as niche as you can get, right? Like if you're listening to my stuff, you're a call center geek nerd, you're in the industry, you're working, you're not just some, random person. So I think that helps build that, because it's such a smaller group of people that you can really add some value. So to do some type of even a community NFT project for these guys that we're going to be launching in July, just 30. It's totally
talk
free.
About that? Can you
it's we're going to do a 30 because I wanted to do 50, but I don't think that I could service it enough with my time. So we're going to do 30 tokens. We're going to drop them. They're going to be totally free. So the only thing that anybody would have to pay would be the gas fee, which would be probably $20, something like that. And basically they're kind of like access tokens, right? So talking to me, so 15 minutes every quarter for anything that you want to talk about with your contact center, with your call center, a 30-minute training with your team. We can talk about anything from engagement to supervisor training to hiring, to anything that you're kind of the niche of that you want. I called it like a fire alarm, right? If shit is going wrong and you I need to talk to somebody right now and I have a question, and my customer support for my telephony platform, what can I do? There's a once a year, I'll answer your call, at no matter what hour kind of thing. Yeah. So little things like that we're trying to build. And then there's gear, right? We've never really given away gear, from sweatshirts and things like that I don't want to, I'm not trying to make money off that. So I want to make it more cool, right? Only those people are going to get it.
Well, did you know about my I say clothing brand? It's not a clothing brand, but you can get Rockstar.
Yeah.
And that, mate, that was genius, because people paid me to advertise my company. It was great. It's all print on demand though, so the margins are
they're tiny.
I make literally no money. In fact, right now I think it's costing me money just to host it. But it's a cool thing to do. I think it's something like treating our brands like actual brands is the way to go, and it's something you don't see very much in the corporate world. It's and especially in the trainer consultant space. I don't know, people that type of brand, that's not for us. We've got to have a corporate, and I fell into that trap for years and years, man. When I first went into the corporate world, I thought there was a particular way you had to be in the corporate world to do well and succeed. Mm-hmm. And it made me miserable. It made me money, but it also made me miserable. So I think branching out a little bit and just trying to do things a little bit differently and a little bit more edgy and a bit cooler. And not everything's going to work. The amount of things that I tried over the years, it just didn't work. Nobody knows about them because they didn't work. It's great.
They didn't work.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, I think it's a cool idea, man. Trying to.
And I think it's what you're interested in, right? Just like what you're saying too. It's kind of doing things to your personality, right? Doing things to where you're I'm really interested in that space. It does interest me, and it's a cool way of branching my passion for what I'm doing with my contact center and working for brands and doing customer support with kind of this new thing that I don't know enough about, but I want to learn a ton. I can't get enough of it. So to be able to branch those and hopefully add value to, my small community as well. I'm pretty stoked for that. I think it'll be fun, and hopefully it adds a ton of value to those. That's been the main thing. I mean, getting outside of this customer experience kind of realm that's really all. And I know you as well. I don't post at all asking for money, asking for business, just really trying to add value to a community, and then to kind of have them kind of do the same. And I think it's been this cycle. And I think you could see that happening with bigger brands, or there's a niche to that can happen from the customer experience. And I think it's more customer experience now than it is, we're talking service, right? To really find that loyalty to what's happening now in the market. It's different. Yeah. And I think it's super cool.
Yeah, it's a really good point. For me, it's a complete mindset shift. So I've been exactly the same. 99% of the activity I do is about adding value, like have value. Here you go, value. So that 1% where I'm like, hey, do you want to do this thing where you might have to pay some money?
Right.
Like, and I, because of course, like, so I say I'm out the game. I'm not out the game now because like I'm working for Pegasystems, amazing customer service call center technology. If you want to talk about that, hit me up. But that's not what this is about. But back when I was doing it, I knew that again, 99.9% of the people that were consuming.
That's a solid plug, by the way.
Like 99.9% of the people that were consuming and getting value from my content were never going to financially benefit me. Right. But that wasn't the point. I had to really have a big mindset shift and realizing that the money isn't the goal. The money's the reward. Right? Helping the community is the goal. Mm-hmm. And if you focus on that goal, the money will look after itself. Yeah. And it's not focus. It is that mindset shift. The money is the reward for achieving the goal. The money isn't the goal. So, and I think that there are going to be companies now that start thinking like that, because you got companies making like hundreds of millions of dollars. Yep. Really, how much more money do you need? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not socialist or anything.
Yeah, right. No, right. I get it.
How much more money do you really need? Surely it gets to the point where you're like, oh, we can just do cool stuff now. We've got so much money. Let's just do cool things and really change the world. But I think we are seeing that corner turning, and we're seeing more and more customers resonate with those kinds of brands that are just like, you know what, like putting purpose above profits.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you there's a shift that almost worldwide with kind of how people are thinking. Hey, I have another question for you. Can you, I don't know, just kind of talk about, I know you do a lot of consulting as well outside of the keynotes and outside of the speaking. When you kind of, I've seen like, when people like graduate from the classes that you give, right? They have like, people are proud. It's super cool. Like, I love that. Yeah. Can you talk about those classes? Talk about some of the things that you discuss in there. We do have a couple questions coming in, but let's get to that, and then we can start talking about some of the questions that are coming in.
Yeah, so the training that still exists and people can still go and get that online. It's the accredited customer experience specialist training. It's basically, I just saw a bit of a gap in the market of a more practical training to teach people a customer experience methodology that they can actually implement, that is practical, that will help them improve a customer experience from start to finish. A lot of the training out there was quite theoretical, which is good. It's good to have a theoretical basis, but then you go back to work and you go, well, what do I do? So I was like, you know what, there could be something else. And the method that gets taught in the training is the SCO method. It's the successful customer outcome method. And again, it's the exact same mindset. If you focus on delivering a successful customer outcome, the successful business outcomes will kind of look after themselves. But if you're focusing too much on the business outcomes, which usually is profit, you're not going to deliver those successful customer outcomes, and it's going to be negative overall. So the successful customer outcome method is essentially the world's best tools and techniques for improving customer experience put together in a replicable and scalable methodology. And it's all starting with the customer, understanding who the customer is, understanding them at a really deep personal level, understanding their lifestyles, their benefits, their values, their influences, understanding their real needs, and really crystallizing a phrase like a mission for that customer. What is their successful customer outcome? Then once you've got that, you work backwards to the experience, because that's the thing that companies do wrong. They start with the experience, or they start with the technology. They start where they are and think, oh, okay, how can we improve a little bit? How can we improve a little bit? To achieve the customer experience, like legendary status of companies out there that we talk about all the time, you don't get that by looking at what you've already got and making it a little bit better. You get that from starting with the customer and thinking, well, what does the customer need? And then how do we deliver it? So that's what that is. You can acxs.co.uk. You can go and check that out if you want.
Yeah. No, very cool. Hey, and you got a little, Eric, I have talked to before. He was at Call Center Week last time, and he just kind of, just I think wanted to give a little bit of a shout out, but in talking about kind of probably echoing kind of the things that we're talking about, where brands need to find cooler ways to meet customers, where they truly want to be met. And I think specifically from the hardcore micro call center side, right? You're starting to see. I mean, we have invested a ton into our digital space, right? So, we're starting to see customers. Voice is still king, but chat had it's important.
Yeah.
But we're seeing Facebook, we're seeing Twitter, we're seeing TikTok, we're seeing all of these digital channels where customers are now at that. Now they're responding to customers. We're starting Expedia Digital again, not to get back into this NFT Web3 thing, but there's a service model that is absolutely lacking when you're looking at like a Discord, and a company might have $50 million or $75 million that they're putting into this project, right? We call them NFT projects, but really they're NFT businesses when they're done right, and they still just have maybe some guys that have. Hey, I'll do between 12 and 5 that are just kind of volunteering for their service, where people can go in there and really trash the project or have questions that aren't getting answered. So, I think that there's a new digital way and a new way where customers are not just going to be calling us, but to be a little bit more proactive, and then to kind of see them in spaces that we're not used to seeing them over the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, for anyone that's watching this right now, like anyone that's a call center or contact center leader, you're going to know very well that things have evolved, customers have evolved, needs have evolved. We know that. We don't need to keep going over that. But of course, we keep adding these new channels. Like, we need to be able to talk to customers over Twitter. We need to be able to talk to customers over WhatsApp. The Apple one, Apple Business thing.
Yep.
The Facebook one.
Yeah,
there'll be a TikTok one soon. I guarantee there'll be a TikTok one soon. You heard it here first. But they just will. But of course, what we're doing is you're having to find like point solutions and like tacking on different capabilities onto your tech stack that was never created to deal with that. And it's just causing chaos for a lot of people. It's like Pega did some research before. More, especially after COVID, there are more people than ever willing to try self-service and different routes. But the problem is we just don't trust it's going to work because it very rarely works. So we're
not good at it.
Yeah,
we're not.
We don't trust it's going to work. And the problem is other crappy companies. You might be the best company in the world at it, but if I've done it with 10 other crappy companies, and then I get to yours and you're like, hey, so I call up and you're there begging me, please do it on the website, please. And I'm like, well, I just don't trust it's going to work. So there's a big gap there at the moment. Trust is an interesting one. And this is one we can maybe talk about a little bit more, of course, with NFTs and blockchain technology that can help out with that. But the way I think about trust, I think of like total trust, and it's in two different areas. It's meaning well and doing well. So does a company mean well? Do they want to do the right thing? And can they actually do it? They're two very separate things. The way to think about it is like, so my daughter, if we do a trust fall exercise, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't hesitate. She'll fall back because she knows, A, I want to catch her, and B, I'm capable of catching her. If we were to switch places, right, I'm going to hesitate a little bit because I know that A, she wants to catch me, but B, is she capable? Well, she's 3, so probably
right. That's not going to look good, right?
Yeah, and there's a big part of that, and I think trust is something we don't really talk about enough. We look at customers' behavior and we don't understand why they behave in particular ways, and we're like, customers shouldn't be behaving this way, they should be behaving that way. Customers are going to behave in whatever way they behave. That's just the way that it goes. You don't really get to have too much say in that, but a lot of the way that customers behave is based on trust, whether they trust that you're actually going to do the right thing by them, that you want to do the right thing, whether they trust you're actually capable of doing the things that you say you're going to do. So there you go.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because a lot of brands say it, but don't really even want to do it, right? They're not putting the effort in to do it. And Eric just kind of had a follow up too.
Yeah.
They're now introducing video down a lot of their digital social media spaces where the cool is, but doesn't quite fit the appropriate business communication best practices. Eric, I would probably disagree with you on that.
I don't know what he does, so I don't know. What does Eric do?
So Eric we have talked a couple of times. Eric was actually at Call Center Week. He saw you. He's kind of been a fan of the podcast as well. I think though, Eric, you know, it doesn't matter if you think it's business appropriate communication, especially if that's where your customer's at. Again, we have been doing, I would say, the last 24 months, even pre-COVID, every RFP we have now, right, from every brand that we're getting has some type of digital aspect, right? So some type of integration that we need to do with where they're on a Facebook, Twitter. And I think it's just kind of communicating how they want. I think that we fall into that a lot, where we're trying to communicate like you're a credit union, right? You're a bank, you're financial. So you have to have this certain decorum. And I think that's true, right? That you're still trying to have your brand, you know, in a certain way, but understand what type of customers you have too, right? If most of your customers are 18 to 24, maybe there's something a little bit different that you can do. And you're also probably going to see them on those digital channels a little bit more.
See, a cool way video could work with that is, so you've got all your different channels to get in touch. You've got email, you've got chatbots, you got all the others. Right. Imagine if your customer could send in a video saying, hey, I need to change the date of this payment, or I need to change my address to this, or I need just whatever. Right. But you could authenticate them from the video. So there's loads of companies at the moment that are using like video authentication to authenticate you are the actual person. That would be super easy if you could just like pop open the app, got a request, hey, do this thing. It authenticates that it's you because of your face, unless you're in Texas, because you can't do, like, haven't Texas just banned the face recognition stuff? Like they banned all like the Instagram filters, and everyone's, well, not everyone's, a certain subset.
Yeah.
I know. Where are you in the world? I forget.
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Okay, that's nowhere near Texas. But anyway, it's you can still use Instagram filters. Don't worry, mate.
I'm good. Yeah.
But yeah, like you pop open your phone. You say, "Hey, I'm moving house. This is my new address." Done. But then imagine if that was automated. Like you don't need a manual person sat at the end of it. It automatically recognizes you. It goes, "Yep, that's James," and then it automatically uses natural language processing to know what you've said, know what you mean, know the request. You automate the case opening, the work gets done. It automates an email back saying, or whatever. You get a push notification, a TikTok, whatever, right, saying it's done. Don't worry. That's the future, man. That's where we're going to be getting to.
Yeah, and I don't think you're.
I don't think you're the face thing, but
I don't think you're wrong. There's from that automation standpoint, even from what we can do now from authentication, right? Like literally, voice and now getting to face. That stuff's here now. It's that back end experience. I think we still stink at as an industry.
Yeah.
There's very few experiences that we found that someone's like, God, that chatbot experience was awesome. Like, I want to go, you're right. I want to go back to do that. So it's coming and we're getting better at it. And every year it's getting better. And now I'm going to get a ton of tweets and a ton of stuff from all the chatbot guys and the AI guys that still beat me up every time that I talk about this stuff. But again, I'm not naive enough to say it's not coming. It is. The thing is, it's not there yet.
The way I look at it, and the way we look at it at Pega is, it's quite difficult because again, you've added these different functionalities over time. You've added all these different channels, and then of course you've got all your systems in the back end that have to do the stuff, and then you've got all the channels that get the information to tell the systems to do the stuff, and then you've got to like connect them all together.
Right.
You've got to piece them to try and make some sort of coherent thing. But what it means is if I call in to do something, then I have to stop, and then I go onto the chat bot, and there's no connected experience. It doesn't know who I am. It doesn't know what I'm trying. I had this exact thing the other day, trying to send some money. from my bank. Tried to start doing it on the app. It wouldn't work. So then I had to call up. They had no idea who I was or why I was calling in. So we've got all in. And of course, then you sort of house the logic and the rules in the different channels. And then every time you need to make a change, it's like, oh my God, we've got to change it here. And then things get messed up. So, I mean, this isn't a Pega plug. But what Pega do is we've got a center out technology. So we stick a brain right in the middle of that. And the brain holds the logic and the brain makes the decisions and the brain does the case management. And it works so that if you need to make a change, for example, you make it one time in Pega, low code, in Pega, and then it automatically reflects everywhere. And if you start on WhatsApp and then move to Twitter and then do an email and then call in, it follows you, it knows you and the context of it everywhere along the journey. And that's not the future. That's possible today. Yet 99% of companies, not 99% of companies, because we've got loads of customers, but loads of companies don't do that. They don't. It's because there's so much sunk cost in all their legacy systems. And like as a leader, you're there like, oh, this doesn't work. It doesn't do what I need to do. We keep having to like add extra little bits of code and trying to like make these things work and talk together, and it doesn't. Then we've had to buy this other little, but now we need a chat bot, so we've got to go and do that thing. And sunk cost, money. And of course, like you can't just rip and replace it. You probably would love to, but no one's going to sign that off. You know what I mean? Like, right, you know this $100 million we've spent over the last 5 years on this stuff that doesn't work. Can we just scrap it all and start again? They're not going to say that. So, and it's super difficult for customer service leaders to battle that. They're battling that every day. And of course, it makes it super difficult for the agents because they're having to deal with 48 different screens while they're doing stuff. They don't know where anything is. Right. They're moving about. They're trying to deal with the person on the phone. Their mind's full of what they're trying to move. Oh, where's it? Oh, he's asking me this. I've got to find the knowledge. And it's just there is a better way. And it's not just Pega. There's other companies that do it. They're not as good as Pega, but there are other companies that do it as well. But it's just it's not unique. That's the only silver lining about this is it's not unique. And there's people.
How do you, James? Let me ask you this to kind of maybe bridge that. How do you bridge what you do on your consulting side when you're talking to kind of humans on the customer experience? And I get it that you're talking more, probably a little bit more. And I've been using micro macro a lot here, but more in the bigger picture to how the technology comes in and affects that customer experience as well. Do you see them as totally separate? Do you see them as riding together? How do you kind of justify the human versus the where we are now?
I don't really consult anymore.
Okay,
but it's the role I sort of play is more in the inspiration space, like inspiring, just talking to people about this stuff and just like looking at things in different ways. And basically, that's my job. I just talk about this stuff to people. That's all I do.
Yeah, you're pretty good. You're a pretty good communicator. I'll give you that.
I'm all right. It really depends. There is the correct answer, which is when it comes to technology, customer experience should never be led by the technology. The technology should always be led by the customer experience. You should always start with the customer experience and work backwards towards the technology. Steve Jobs said that, and he was pretty clever. So we should probably pay attention to that.
Right.
But it's not looking at technology and going, oh, what's this fancy thing we can try and put in there? Or it's the complete wrong way around. Start with the customers, work backwards to the technology to make sure the technology is in place to deliver the experience that needs to be delivered to deliver those successful customer outcomes. That's the correct answer. However, the situation I was just talking about, when you're a customer service leader or contact center leader and you're in just an absolute mess because things are on fire, nothing's working together, your agents are pissed off, your customers are pissed off, your customer satisfaction is going down, your customers are leaving, your agents are churning like mad. They just go, me coming along and going, start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technical. Right. They're like, okay, yeah, thanks, James, that's fantastic. However, everything's on fire. There's the other way to look at it is using technology that sort of turbocharges the stuff you've already got. Because again, you can't replace it. You're not going to get tens of millions of dollars signed off to replace. Some people will, fantastic, but a lot of people won't. You're not going to be able to replace your agent desktop. You're not going to be able. It's just not going to happen. So finding technology that can help sort of wrap and renew what you've got and make it all work together. There's plenty of really good technologies that can take an agent desktop, take their 40 million different screens they have to work on, and put it together into one single window that they can work on. Fantastic. That's a relatively easy thing you can do that makes something slightly less on fire. That's good. There's things like Pega case management, where you can put the brain in the middle that'll deal with the cases and push it out to the channels and the systems and make sure everything's working together. That's a relatively easy thing you can do to stop things being on fire so much. And again, there's like the idealistic view of how it should be done. And if you had a blank sheet of paper, that is the way you do it. But then there's the realistic, practical view of you've just got to find ways of making what you've got work. And unfortunately, a lot of times is more technology.
Yeah, and I think that's a plus for the outsourcing side too. I mean, that's kind of one of our big, selling points, right? Is hey, you have all this technology. I get it. It's not working for you. You're going to have to make some big investments here, or let us take 50 of your agents. Let's kind of show you what we can do because our stuff's good, right? Like my job is to get the greatest, latest technology, figure out how to use it, how to get an ROI, but how to make the customer experience with it just top notch. Yeah. Then reports and analytics on top of that. So to be able to come we're kind of like the clean slate, right? Like you're talking about, if we could just start over, what would we do? Yeah. And I think that's one of the benefits. Hey, another question, and I want to hear your answer to this too. And so this is kind of because I think you're good at kind of seeing the really big picture here, but like the really bad rep industries, right? The cables, the airlines, those guys. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Like if you were kind of put into the CEO of Delta Airlines or United and said, hey, listen, the board comes to you and says our number one thing is to fix our customer experience. Listen, this is probably not just a quick answer here. But what are some of the things that you would look at?
It could be a quick answer, and the quick answer would be is just get the basics right. Yeah, because they don't, and it's not always about wowing customers. It's not always about delivering brilliant, memorable moments. Sometimes it's just about doing the stuff you say you're going to do.
Answer the phone.
Yeah, and just do it consistently. And that's I love boring companies, and this is going to sound crazy, but companies that don't surprise me. I don't like being surprised by companies. Good surprises, okay, great, fantastic. I'd much rather have consistent experience. I'd rather know exactly what I'm going to get every time without fail. The one I always go back to on this is McDonald's. People are always like, oh, you need to create emotion in your experience. You need to wow customers and deliver. Right. No, you don't. A lot of times you just need to do things. Most experiences and interactions with companies we have are transactional. Just do the thing. Just do it. Don't run before you can walk. Most companies can't walk, and they're trying to do this fancy stuff. Oh no, it's just the way I look at it is that there is two types of experience. You've got transactional and emotional. So a transactional experience is you go and buy a Big Mac at McDonald's. Yep. Do it. There are other experiences that are more emotional. So for instance, claiming on a relative's life insurance policy, that's an emotional experience that you're not going to just go and automate. You're not just going to put like a kiosk there and be like it, right. Press the buttons and a check comes out of the thing. But the thing is, if you get the transactional stuff right and you automate it and you make it quick and as easy and as fast as possible, then it frees up loads of time to spend on the things that need that human touch, the things that actually are going to build relationships. So the question about how much over the top should you go in those trades there, zero over the top at all, just baseline, meet expectations. People say you've got to exceed customer expectations every time. That's dumb. That's stupid. That's not a sustainable strategy at all. Because as soon as you exceed an expectation, it becomes the expectation. And look, at the end of the day, expectations aren't set by you anymore. They're set by every other company that's better than you. They're essentially set by Amazon.
And I think to your point, I think exceeding expectations for some of these would be just meeting the kind of the status quo, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we have clients right now that just like, hey, get them their answer, fix that. Let's move. That's what and that's almost the demographic of the customer too, right? They don't want the whatever you want to call exceeding on this specific type of call. They want just their question, their issue answered. Thank you very much, and I'm moving on. And that's a 10 for them. Yeah. So I think you're right. There is a big disconnect between the fluffy, what we think, and what the actual reality of what service is, depending on the industry and depending on the type of brand that you're working with.
Yeah. And the thing is, it does depend on the customer. There are always going to be customers that want every experience to be an emotional one. They're weird, but they exist. So you got to deal with it. Technology can help with that. But it's like when I call up to do a thing and they're trying to build rapport with me, I might just, I don't say this to them.
Right.
But in my head, I'm like, can you just?
Well, sometimes it's fake rapport, right? Like hey, how are you doing? Like, that they're biding time as they're pulling your account, and they're just trying to make the chit chat, right? How's your day going? Like, that's fine, but it's still, if people are saying that that's exceeding expectations, right? It's like that forced "I'm sorry," right? I talk to my reps about that fake empathy of really just trying to talk through what they're sorry for, not just like, oh, I'm sorry, like that repeated just fake kind of empathy that we kind of go through that on the check on the scorecard looks great, right? On their, but really in the reality, let me just say this too. The one cool thing I think you can do from an exceeding is if you do understand the brand, like we have some really kind of young and hip retail companies that we can talk to a customer like you and be like, hey, what's up, James? Hey, this is a really cool item that you got. Like, we can use that type of almost branding for the brand, right? Yeah. And then obviously we have some credit unions and some other things that we're a little bit more stoic, but I think you can kind of match customers as well. And that kind of, I think, it does a little bit more than kind of your fake I'm sorry's.
Yeah. So there was a guy I used to work with, and he was an expert on football. When I say football, I mean the type that you play with your feet, the actual football. You guys called soccer incorrectly.
When they kick the ball, right?
But he knew everything. So he would ask people on the phone, "Oh, are you into sports? Are you a football fan?" They go, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, what team do you support?" And they'd say, and he would go, "Oh, me too." No matter what the team was.
That's right. That's awesome. I like that.
Too. And because he knew everything about football, he was a bit obsessed. He just talked to them about that. That was, I mean, if it was bad when they were like, "Are you a football fan?" And they're like, "No," and he was like, "Oh, I got nothing. I'm going to transfer you to someone else." But that was interesting. I'm not suggesting everyone do that. It's just a funny story I'm telling.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Here, Eric can kind of hop back on here, and what is your recommendation on being a rock star on a video chat? Best practices, what the reps should look like, how do they use the background? I'll let you go first here, James. Let me get that out of the. I don't know.
I'm not sure. It's a hard one because it depends on especially with so many working from home at the moment. I don't really know I don't know if I'm bought into this whole video thing. But again, it's a difficult one because if I'm calling in to change my address and I'm using so when I first joined Pega, there's a guy called Andy Mutlow, if you're watching, how's it going? And every demo he would give was change of address, and I'm like, dude, that's so boring. Why are you doing change of it? I've just moved house and now I understand, because it is in my head the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You change a bunch of letters in a system to a bunch of other ones, letters and numbers to other letters and numbers. So that's essentially all it is. The difficulty. Why am I telling you this? So if I'm calling up, right, I need to change my address, and they're like, "Hey, dude, why don't we video chat?" I'm like, "No, man, just change it." "Oh yeah, let's do a video call." No, just
Right.
Can you just? I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm bought into that yet. However, I did have one before where my internet was playing up. Dude I was on the phone with, he was like, "Right, we're going to do a video thing. I'm going to look at the connection." And it was like through my phone, there was a thing, like little website, a URL I typed in, and it connected to what he was doing. And he could see through my phone, I could show him. He's like, "Show me this wire, show me that wire." That's a good way of doing it. Whether we're going to be sitting there on Zoom with age, I don't know. I don't know if maybe I'm a boomer. I'm not, but maybe at heart but I don't know if I'm about that.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to answer this as well, but I mean, I think, if you were a credit union, like, I don't know, my credit union here in Erie, like my drive-through is video, right? Like I drive up, the little video thing is there, and I could see that just kind of being, really how it is. I think it's kind of brand specific. I thought a lot about this in like 2011 when video wasn't around, and I would have been totally wrong because I went kind of over the top with everything with branded backgrounds, and to be honest, I think COVID threw that all out the window. And everyone is super comfortable now with just, look at us. I'm sitting in kind of a little conference room. You have that, and it's a nothing.
It's not even real. This is vinyl.
Oh, it's your right. Okay, gotcha.
But there is a part of me that thinks, so the video thing, it does help build trust. If you can see a person's face and you can see how they're, I feel bad for the agents who usually would be sat there going, "Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir." Yeah. They won't be able to do that anymore. Okay. But it does build trust, and it's something I talk about actually in one of my keynotes, that the way we build relationships is through proximity. So how close we can get to another person. So that's evolutionarily through time. That's how we do it. There's a guy called Edward T. Hall. He wrote a book in 1966. I forget what it's called. Something like The Hidden Dimension, which is like a super heavy metal name. So it's something like that. And he wrote this book, and it was looking at how proximity creates relationships. And there's different zones. I can't remember them all, but the one where you build the biggest relationships is your personal space, which is like 1.5 foot or less. Mm-hmm. That's your intimate zone. So, of course, as time and technology has evolved, we've kind of all worked to try and circumvent that, to build relationships in different ways without having to have somebody stood right next to us, whether it's, sending ravens and pigeons and smoke signals, leaving messages on cave walls, sending letters, radio, film, and TV.
You've evolved that nice, James. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. All those things.
I like it. Yeah.
But then the internet came along. And what it meant is, you got to think, before, I'm watching a movie and I'm seeing a film star, and I'm building a relationship with that film star. I'm seeing them over and over again, and I'm watching their interviews, and I'm seeing them on a video screen, and I'm seeing them, and it feels like they're there with me, and I'm building this relationship, but they've got no idea who I am. Mm-hmm. Because of the internet and the way it's evolved, we're now building these reciprocal relationships with people that were untouchable before, and that's what's creating this hyper fandom, this next level of fandom. And it's because of like, we can sit here now, and as far as my subconscious is concerned, we're in the same room,
right?
My subconscious isn't going, "Well, you're halfway around the world in a different time zone on a different continent." My subconscious doesn't know those things. It knows that we are together, and I'm looking, you are within my intimate space right now. And so it means that we can build very real and very reciprocal relationships with people from all over the world that we've never met, that aren't even on the same continent as us, people that we may never meet in real life. And if companies can use that to their advantage, then maybe they can. Building those relationships, being able to, sit there with someone on the screen and have your subconscious think, okay, we are together, we are having this conversation. Maybe, I don't know, going off on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, no, I like it. But there could be some, and I think, you saw that, the last bridge was, and again, I keep talking Web 2, Web 3, but when Web 2 and social media really came into play, right? That was kind of the start of, you being able to reach out to a superstar, right? And be able to actually have an interaction there. And now I think it has built to what you're talking about too, with video and how comfortable we are with that. It's almost like our brains are changing, like our brains are evolving, right? Like almost right before our eyes in the last, 5-10 years.
I agree.
Interesting. Eric, thanks. I don't know if we answered your question, but but I think that was some really, that was some interesting stuff, and at least it kind of got us springboarded on a little bit of dialogue. So, hey, so are you going to Call Center Week in June? What is your? Not
no.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you have any other plans? Are you going to any other shows? Are you doing anything this year yet, or is it still kind of up in the air with?
Yeah, it's a bit up in the air right now. But one thing I did want to talk to you about is, right, have you seen this new trend of AI artwork? It's got nothing to do with any, but have you seen it? It's something you may have seen.
Yes, I have, but continue on where do you want to go with that?
Don't know, it's cool. Have you seen it? It's
yeah,
cool.
There's been a lot with that, right? So from the AI artwork, and then also doing things, and again, I know I keep going back to this NFT thing, but these generative art projects that are using AI as well, where basically they have algorithms that they're learning, and they're programmed with an algorithm, and you type in a word like James or Tom or McDonald's, right? And it starts to use the letters that you're using to create this kind of really cool art that's one-to-one, right? There'll only be one of them because of the algorithm. Yeah. So I think that stuff's really cool. I get into huge discussions. I'm looking for somebody. I'm not an anti-AI guy, because if you're an anti-AI guy, you're not with the realm of where everything is at. I believe in it. I think it's going to it's starting to evolve everything that we're doing. Not naive to that. It's really starting to help the agents, right? From an analytics standpoint, from agent assist, from all these other tools that it's starting to utilize. I don't think we're there yet when it comes to, the natural language processing and being able to take over for an agent. I'll
come back to that.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet. I'd love to see some demo or something where I could ask it, 50 different questions, and it's going to be treating me like a good human being, a good customer, and it understands me. But this whole evolution of blockchain, right? And this is where I get into arguments, because nobody believes me, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But we'll be changing especially how my reps, right? And I think that's maybe how I'm putting how my reps are going to have to be servicing customers, right? So in the next year or two, you're going to start to see all your sports tickets. From, we're big Steeler fans here. They're talking about it. Browns, any Major League Baseball, soccer, or football, depending on where you are. The tickets are going to be NFTs, right? And that's going to be kind of, I think, the first thing that a lot of people are going to interact with them and like, oh my gosh. And I think that's going to be almost a springboard, because that's in our general consciousness of society as a whole. And having now our reps start to understand different terminology, where things are at, how to do things maybe on the blockchain, how to look for certain things that you weren't going to have to do before. Yeah, I think is really interesting. I think it's coming quicker than we think, almost quicker than the AI piece. And people, I'm probably in the absolute minority with that. But I think it's such an interesting time for that, and really for where the blockchain is as well. But I'd love to hear your AI.
Well, I mean, Pega have got a thing called Voice AI, which is wicked. It is the coolest thing. So I call in, and I'm going to change my address. So I say, I need to change my address. It listens, opens the case. So I'm the agent. I'm sat there. I've done nothing. I'm doing nothing as the agent. So it's like a co-pilot.
Yes.
Like imagine Iron Man. It's Jarvis.
Yeah.
And so the agent's like, okay, what's your new address? I say it. Voice AI listens and populates the fields. Right. So again, I'm not typing it in because, of course, it's most of the errors are from manual input. So it's getting rid of errors. As the agent, I've just got to look at the screen and go, is that what they said? Yes, yes, yes. Then I ask a question. Is my car going to be covered at my new address, or is there an extra thing? It hears that I'm saying that, brings up a knowledge article.
Mm-hmm.
So pinging that in front of you. So it's not completely taking over itself, but it's like augmenting the agent's experience.
I think, James, what you're talking about is that's where obviously where I have seen that, right? Agent assist is probably the number one. Like I had the guys from Balto on, and they're working in that space. Level AI is actually coming on the podcast next week, which will be really, really interesting. And they're kind of working in that same space. I think it is interesting, right? Real-time transcription, right? Where, the AI or the bot or the program or whatever you want to call it is actually looking at the words that are coming and then deciding what the best avenue for the agent is. Mm-hmm. I think is something that is really powerful. And I think that's where you see it, right? It's in the support of the agent right now. But I mean, it's not a big reach to say, hey, that's going to be taking that over at some point. But it is really cool, the technology that is out there with that stuff now.
Yeah. And it's like even little things like, of course, like calculating the next best action, like making decisions, looking at who this person is, looking at the situation, the context of the thing, popping up, maybe do this thing next, do that thing next. The wrap up at the end of the call as well, like automatically automating the wrap up because the AI knows what's happening. It's a game changer. While we are still using human agents, it's probably one of the best gifts you can give them, something like that, because it allows them to be present with the customer. Like they're not having to do a million things at once. Yeah. And they can actually, you've got someone on the phone, right? They want to get stuff done as quickly as possible. You're not having to fill time with so how's your day while I'm flicking between, or the dreaded, and I just put you on hold because I got to go and do a thing. It can even like do escalations if it's listening and thinks, this call's going badly. Sentiment, hearing the customer's voice. There's just so much cool stuff it can do, and just giving your agents a bit of a break so that they're not having the burden of doing all of that stuff. It's just better for everyone. It's better for your agents, better for your customers. It makes the calls happen a lot quicker, so it's better for your bottom line. Yeah, win.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for those types of things too. I think it's more, and you're going to tell me it's not, but I think it's a little bit more difficult for in the BPO space, right? Because just dealing with, and that's kind of what I've talked to those guys. I'm not making excuses because, to be honest, I think Balto, like most of their clients are BPO, so they're doing it. But it's just, to wrap my head around setting that up for 30 or 40 different clients, or you probably wouldn't. You probably set it up for your maybe top 3 or something like that from a volume standpoint. Yeah. So there's a lot that I'm thinking about too. You can see kind of my head's going right now too, right? And again, it's any technology that a BPO gets, we need to have an ROI on it, right? So I know that may sound selfish, but that's the bottom line is we want to make sure that the experience is top notch. But if there's, I don't want to just slap something on. There needs to be a real, improvement to the customer from an ROI standpoint. And that's kind of the stuff that I sometimes struggle with too, of what piece of technology should we get? Because it's kind of pick or choose now, because there's so many different ways you can go, from pre-call to agent assist to analytics, helping the customer and kind of seeing sentiment scores, and then your NPS and your CSAT, and then tying in analytics to that. There's a ton to it. So it's cool, but you really got to really map some of this stuff out to see, what's the best for you and then for the customer from our, at least in my industry.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with that.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. Well, hey, do you have anything else before we kind of wrap this up? We're kind of heading over to the top of the hour. I'm glad we could do this. We got to do it again. There's a lot of fun. We can do a lot. Maybe we'll do a happy hour at the next one and bring some people on here too and have a couple beers and kind of talk shop. But I think we're just talking about really anything we want to talk about, which I think is a cool format with this.
Yeah, man, that'd be good. I would count me in. You've heard it.
And then I know most people have, but just if we're going to obviously chop this up and this will be posted over and over again. So if you want to, can you just throw out your, any of your social stuff or anything, if people can hit you up on, like to do that?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, it's James Dodkins. It's my name. Twitter @JDodkins. Instagram @the CX Rockstar. TikTok. I got a TikTok.
Nice.
I looked the other day. I've got hundreds of.
How many? How many you got?
What videos?
No. How many followers you have?
Oh, like 2. I think you're one of them.
We just started at 2. Listen, I have 207. So I'm not. I have nothing. We literally just started like 3 weeks ago, but we're posting like 3 to 4 a day. So we're trying.
So I've got 41 followers.
Okay, nice.
And yeah, I've posted like.
Dude, you have so much cool content. I think you could blow that up if you really wanted to.
I don't know, because I started posting before. I thought, right, I'm going to get ahead of the curve, and I'm start posting on TikTok, and then if customer experience people end up on there, then
you're
then
the
there'll
go-to.
be some stuff. But no, I don't think it works like that. Like you can. I got. The camera's over there.
Yeah, that looks cool.
So many videos on there. But yeah, nobody.
Well, not yet. I think it's coming, right? Look at Instagram, right? That was for photographers when it first started,
True.
and now every brand is on there. Facebook was for college kids, and now it's for your grandmother. Like you have no idea how these bad boys are going to evolve. So that's my thought process with it. So we're giving it our damnedest too. So
sweet. Well,
all right, buddy.
Sure
you have a great weekend. Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll talk.